And welcome to this edition of the Native News Update on this Tuesday, November 22nd. I'm your host for today's program, Paul DeMain. Many of the stories right here can also be found at our website, IndianCountryNews.com. And here are some of the news stories from the day from the Associated Press and other Native news sources. The first Native American Republican judge has joined the New Mexico District Court. Judge Samuel Winder was officially sworn in last week, 2 months after Governor Susana Martinez appointed him to fill the vacancy on the 2nd Judicial District Court created by the retirement of criminal judge Albert "Pat" Murdoch. The 49-year-old born Winder is a member of the Southern Ute tribe and a former federal prosecutor who served twice at the U.S. Attorney's Office in New Mexico. A Fury head-on crash that killed 5 people in central Wyoming last week was a murder-suicide by a distraught teen who veered his SUV van into a family in a minivan at nearly 100 miles an hour on a dark highway, according to authorities. The crash happened just after midnight November 10th, 4 miles south of Lander at the foot of the Wind River Range. 17-year-old Matthew Denton deliberately turned the 2002 Chevrolet Suburban he was driving into an incoming traffic. Fremont County Coroner Ed McAuslin said the Suburban was going 97 miles an hour when it crashed head-on into a 2005 Dodge Caravan, instantly killing all 4 people in the minivan. Denton, who was alone in the Suburban, died at a Casper hospital shortly after the wreck. Killed in the minivan were 41-year-old Corrina Sorrell Norman, her husband Arvin Sorrell, their 25-year-old son Ethan Sorrell, who was driving the minivan, and his 20-year-old girlfriend Melinda Escamilla. The 4 killed in the van were American Indians. The Sorrell family were members of the Eastern Shoshone tribe, and Escamilla was Northern Arapaho, said according to Ivan Posey of the Eastern Shoshone Business Council. Thinking about a trip to North London this summer? From June 8th through the 21st, 2012, contemporary Indian artists are showing their work in the Highgate Literary and Scientific Institute called Indigenous Brilliance, a show of contemporary Native North American Indian art at Highgate, North London, England. Many established and young artists will take part in that show, which has as its purpose to show the British public a taste of what Indian people are doing in art today in all different kinds of media, and also to dispel any lingering stereotypes and ideas the British public have about American Indians. They are encouraging as many Indian artists as possible to take part and to spread the word. There will be a variety of work, paintings, jewelry, collages, shields, and other art, accompanied by information on each artist. For more information, you can contact Elijah Van Den Berg or Lyle Toledo Yazzie at vcornelia@hotmail.com, and we'll put that email up there for you to contact it. A permanent American Indian Cultural Center at Alcatraz in California is in place some 40 years after Indian occupation of the San Francisco Bay landmark. Creation of the exhibit was one of the demands during the 19-month American Indian occupation that ended in 1971. The San Francisco Chronicle says former prison's band practice room in the cell block basement has been transformed into a multimedia exhibit. The prison shut down in 1963. The prison and the island are now part of a national park that draws 1.4 million visitors a year. Activists had seized the island with hopes of turning it into an Indian university or cultural center. Up to 800 people occupied the island at one point. The photos, videos, and sound recordings were compiled by faculty and students at San Francisco State University and California State University East Bay, and will become part of the Alcatraz's permanent exhibit. The U.S. Congress has leveled a major setback to Indian tribes in need of critical resources to combat the highest crime rates in the country. A decision by Congress to cut over $90 million from the proposed funding for the essential Department of Justice measures in Indian country leaves tribal law enforcement officials and federal personnel with far too few resources to fight crime on tribal lands. Signed into law last year with bipartisan support, the Tribal Law and Order Act, TLOA, set out to reduce crime in Indian Country by making improvements to the way criminal justice is administered on tribal lands and reauthorizing critical tribal justice programs. The recent funding cut will make the Act's intended goals very difficult to attain. The National Congress of American Indians, the nation's leading tribal advocacy organization, is calling this a failure of significant proportions. As many learned over the weekend, the self-help author who led an Arizona so-called sweat lodge ceremony that ended with 3 deaths was sentenced November 18th to 2 years behind bars. Not enough for the victims' families, who earlier in the day yelled at James Arthur Ray and said he was not worthy to spit shine the victim's shoes. A judge handed down 3 two-year prison terms to be served concurrently and ordered Ray to pay more than $57,000 in restitution. Authorities immediately took custody of Ray, who will serve his time with the State Department of Corrections. Ray was convicted on a trio of negligent homicide charges earlier this year in the deaths of Kirby Brown, 38, of West Town, New York, James Shore, 40, of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and Liz Newman, 49, of Prior Lake, Minnesota. And that's going to be another roundup of news from Indian Country on this edition of the Native News Update. Thanks for joining with us, and come back again soon.